Hello everyone, just wanted to come on live for just a somewhat short stream today. We'll probably come up for somewhere around 10 to 12 minutes of actual news content, and I'm actually going to take my headphones off here. But yeah, I want to do like 10 to 15 minutes of Tesla news content, and then I'd like to, as we do in the past streams, I'd like to just have a conversation with you guys. So if you're joining in live right now, and if you can hear me, if you could just go ahead and put in the chat box that the audio is coming through. Hello, Seihan. Is audio coming through okay? Is everything coming through as it should? We're going to be talking about really four Tesla news stories that just happened over the last day or two. Some pretty exciting news stories. Great. Audio's good. Hello there, Jim. Appreciate you guys joining. Looks like we're getting a few people on now. Perfect. Okay. So everything's going well. So yeah, like I said, what I'm going to do today is I got four Tesla news stories that I want to go into. I'm going to dive into each one of these news stories one by one, somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes of content. And then I want to take a moment, the last 10 or 15 minutes of the video, however long it needs to go, and I want to actually discuss these things with you. We can talk about other Tesla topics, other EV topics as well. So I'm going to go and switch over to the software, going to dive into today's news stories, and then we'll come back and we'll have a time of chatting and take your comments as well. So thank you so much for everyone joining so far, and I'm sure more people will come as we go. So the first news story that I want to cover is it starts with the Chinese government, as we have seen in the past. They have banned Tesla's vehicles from coming onto military bases, and for the reason they do this is because, as you know, Tesla's vehicles, they all come with surround cameras, and I've put this graphic in a lot of past videos, but when it comes to how Tesla's autopilot system works, they have 8 cameras surrounding the vehicle, giving a 360-degree view. You, of course, if you've been around Tesla, driven a Tesla, own a Tesla, you know that there's also a dash cam viewer and a dash cam recorder and Sentry mode. The Tesla vehicle is constantly taking video surveillance all around it. And since Tesla is a US company, the Chinese government has somewhat of a fear that there could be spying. So this was first reported by Reuters, and this article talks about the Chinese military banning Tesla's cars from entering their complexes, of course, citing security concerns over cameras. But the really recent news, that's not super new news, but there's really recent news is that Elon Musk was recently on a live interview, took part of an event that happened in China. And in this particular event, he took a few moments to make sure that he addressed this situation. And this is from this article that was on Teslarati. I'll put a link in the description. I'll make sure that's there if you're curious to read the entire article. But basically what Elon Musk was saying is that Tesla has a very strong incentive to be very confidential with any of their information. If Tesla used cars to spy on China, and saying in China or also anywhere, so Europe, United States, etc., we would get shut down. And so Elon Musk is saying that whether the Tesla vehicles in China, the US, Europe, wherever, yes, they do capture a lot of data, but they hold that and they make sure, as they've talked about as well, that it's not linked to a specific person in the vehicle, and they make sure and they protect that data. So Tesla vehicles, as Musk mentions here, are not spying on people in China, and there's really no security issue there. Tesla seems to have a very robust system as well, and obviously any system can be broken into at some point. That's just the age we live in. But every single one of us walk around with cell phone cameras, and we have cameras all around our houses usually, and we have doorbell cameras, etc. We have cameras all around us, and it's not really something you're going to get away from. And I believe Tesla is similar to Apple. They protect their data and they protect their users, and you can trust them in that way. So that's an interesting news story. The more exciting news story was actually a Reddit user, which we'll talk about here in a second, actually posted some pictures of a brand new refreshed Model S that they saw at the Kettleman City Supercharger. And that it wasn't just the interior that we've seen before, but what was unique about this is it actually seemed to have version 11 of the new Tesla software. And so here's that Reddit post, and I have that linked in the description below. But there's that Reddit post that was put out. And one of the first pictures, this Reddit user is Friday the Dog 111. And once again, I actually asked permission to use these photos, and he gave me permission. So as you can see there, first of all, before we dive into the software, it becomes clear that Tesla is going to offer the yoke steering wheel. Obviously, it seems like that's going to happen, but they're also going to offer a round steering wheel, which we've seen in some leaked photos. This particular Tesla had the round steering wheel, the new updated round steering wheel. So I think that's key. Here's another picture of that steering wheel, just a really clear picture of that. You can see a slightly updated UI directly in front of the driver, that display there. But then as we move to this middle screen itself, you can see that the UI has different colors. The user interface has different colors. And as you can see in this picture, it's a little bit more of a tiled approach where there's different tiles. I don't know how the functionality is going to work if you can expand the different tiles. I imagine if you click on one, touch on one, it'll probably expand that and minimize the others. And you can probably do things like that. But as you can see here, there's a tiled new user interface for this new release for the Tesla Model S. And I assume this will also go into the Tesla Model 3 and the Y and anything here with this horizontal screen. Here's just another close-up picture there of the colors in the tiled UI. And then what's really exciting is there's actually a picture here of one of the settings, the preferences mode, section, and you can see here that in this particular version of software, there's a new mode called drag strip mode. And so I think that's going to be really interesting as people go to the drag strip with these new Teslas, especially once the Plaid Plus comes out. And the regular Plaid Model S is going to be insane, but especially the Plaid Plus Model S, and having that drag strip mode will be interesting to see exactly what that includes. Also, Elon Musk had mentioned that the Tesla Model S will, with this new software, it will have a smart shift mode. It'll know what drive mode you're supposed to be in based on the circumstances, GPS, maps, and also based on, I'm sure, like if your foot's on the pedal, the brake pedal or not, etc. But we do know from this release now that it's going to be an option that you can turn on or off. And so you have a toggle switch there where it says smart switch on or off, basically. And so you have that control. So we've figured out that it's going to be an optional feature that you have the ability to turn on and off. And then they have another feature that says media on drive. Basically what this seems to be is you can have the media, the music, the streaming audio, or whatever you have set up, you can have that start immediately when you drive. So you can always have music start if you have this toggled on when you start driving. Very interesting. I'm sure there'll be a lot more details come out as this rolls out and as people take delivery of the new Model S. If it's shipped with this new version 11 software, we'll of course learn a lot more, but for now it's already looking good. I personally like the way the new UI looks, and I like the colors. I think the function will be very good, and I'm excited to see that implemented into Tesla's vehicles. The next news story that I just want to quickly cover really revolves around the production of the Tesla Cybertruck. So, of course, it's a very much anticipated vehicle that a lot of people have reserved. I think we're somewhere around 1 million Tesla Cybertrucks have been reserved, and people have put down that $100 deposit to reserve a Cybertruck. And I understand that not every single one of those are going to turn into an order, but even if 30, 40, 50% of those turn into orders, that's a lot of Cybertrucks on order. So there's a lot of people waiting for the Cybertrucks, and we're really waiting for news of when it's going to be produced. And Elon Musk has given us some of that news in the Q4 2020 conference call. He mentioned that if they get lucky, they could have a few deliveries of the Cybertruck at the end of this year, speaking about 2021. And he expects volume production of the Cybertruck to begin in 2022. He then also mentioned in this particular conference call that they have finished pretty much all of the engineering, so that's no longer going on at the design level. And then he mentioned that they're going to soon order the equipment necessary to make the Cybertruck. So obviously there's a lot of equipment and a lot of new processes in building this truck with a stainless steel, cold rolled stainless steel exterior. And it's going to require some new processes, but also Tesla is going to have a rear underbody casting that's going to maybe even be a complete rear underbody casting, or at least a big section of it, the rear of it, where it's going to be cast very similar to what Tesla is doing with the Model Y with their Gigapress. So we know that he mentioned at the conference call at the beginning of 2021 here that they were going to start ordering equipment. And then he said here that they're going to need a bigger machine for the rear body of the Cybertruck because it's obviously a bigger vehicle. Now, where that ties into news that's happening right now is he also mentioned that it's going to be an 8,000 ton casting press they'll need for the Cybertruck. Recently, this news came out that a company named Hydra is going to be making the Gigapress casting machine for Tesla that's going to go into Gigafactory Berlin, and I assume that this is a similar machine that's going to go into Gigafactory in Texas to build the Cybertruck. And so we're seeing this huge Gigapress casting machine being installed. And we know because of this company's doing it that this is something that Tesla's moving ever so closely to. And it seems like that they will be able to get that press, going and get everything worked out, and maybe even be producing Cybertrucks, like he said, like Elon Musk said, get a couple out at the end of this year, and also be able to see Cybertrucks delivered in 2022. So that's pretty exciting. Just some interesting news there about that huge 8,000 ton press. And then the last news story that I just want to cover is referring to the full self-driving button that Elon Musk mentioned in a past tweet. So in March 6th, Elon Musk mentioned that due to high demand for full self-driving beta and the service centers were getting a lot of calls, he said that they're going to be having a button that would show up on Tesla vehicles and would allow a user to request full self-driving beta. And so that was supposed to be 10 days from the 16th, from the 6th. And so obviously we're past that date now. But he recently just gave an update here talking about that this button is still going to happen, this button where you can request full self-driving beta. But they decided not to do it on the beta version number 8. They're going to actually have this happen version 9 after they see significant improvements and due to them switching over to Pure Vision. We had an entire video that I did talking about Tesla Pure Vision versus LiDAR. I hope you've seen that. If not, check out those videos where I went in depth about that vision, camera vision versus the LiDAR vision that most people are using. But it's exciting to know that that button is coming sometime next month. So something exciting to look forward to. I'm going to go ahead and I want to take a moment now here. I'm going to go back to the software and I want to take your questions. I appreciate everyone that's come on, and I'd like to talk about each one of these news stories. So I don't know if you've had time to look at the pictures more in depth. The version 11 software that was leaked by the Reddit user. If you have, I'd like to talk about that or anything else. So if you have any questions, anything that you would like to ask me about, Tesla related, EV related, or anything like that, I'd love to answer those questions. So Leonard65 said, I wish they'd unveil it. We've been teased for months now. I assume he's talking there about version 11 software, and yeah, we've been waiting for version 11 software to come for a while. I did a video, and it's been some months ago, where I dove into some of my predictions of what we would see in version 11 software, and I believe that was sometime in like December of 2020, maybe it was November of 2020, when we were starting to see some hints of new features to come. I felt like the Christmas release was probably going to be version 11 of Tesla software, and obviously that didn't happen. But I do assume that will happen more. Oh, on the Cybertruck update. Okay, Leonard, thank you. Yeah, the Cybertruck update. Yeah, we're definitely waiting for that unveil. I know that there are going to be some slight tweaks to the Cybertruck design, as Elon Musk has mentioned. The size should stay the same, the big size of the Cybertruck, but there are some very small design tweaks that Elon Musk mentioned for the Cybertruck, and there will be some subsequent unveiling of the new Cybertruck. Basically, the production intent release candidate. We should see that sometime soon. And yes, of course, everyone's really excited about it. And, you know, if it truly is a few get delivered at the end of this year, we're getting pretty close. I mean, here we are. That would only be sometime around maybe 7, 8, months from now. We could maybe 9 months from now, very end of this year, we could see some of the Cybertrucks start coming out. But I don't expect much. I really expect 2021 to be really it because of the new processes for the cold rolled stainless steel exterior. It's pretty unique. So let's see here. Seyhan, what Cybertruck trim will come out first? I've ordered the dual motor. Hope it won't be too far into 2022 before they start deliveries. At first they mentioned they were going to delay the tri-motor Cybertruck, but then of course they kind of flip-flopped, and the single motor is now not going to be very early. It seems like that might be one of the last ones. I think since they're working out the plaid powertrain with the Model S, and it's going to be a very similar powertrain setup that's going to be in the plaid Cybertruck, the tri-motor Cybertruck, I think we actually are going to see the plaid tri-motor Cybertruck come out first, that very highest dollar item, that $70,000 truck. I think we're going to see that, and it's going to go along with what Tesla has done in the past, where they've unveiled and released the most expensive of their vehicles. Sometimes, early on in a ramp when it wasn't completely figured out, it wasn't always the case that it was like the highest trim level that eventually came, but it's usually the highest trim level that they release first. And so I think that's going to happen with the Cybertruck. I think secondarily they're going to release the dual motor, and then as they run through sales, I think the single motor will be delayed, probably maybe not even in 2022, to be honest. They have so many deliveries. I don't see the single motor happening maybe even till 2023. So that's kind of my take on it, and you can have your opinion, but that's what I think right now. Leslie Weir said, do you still believe we will see the Semi go into production by the end of this year? I think, it's, if we do see production of the Semi, I think they're building a couple here and there right now. I think that we're probably going to have to wait for the 4680 battery ramp up. And I think that the 4680 battery is being built at Gigafactory Texas. I've seen reports that it seems like the 4680 batteries that are coming out of the Fremont pilot line, that Tesla is very likely going to be reserving or sending those over to Gigafactory Berlin for the first build outs of the Model Y as they start building out the factory. So I feel like Tesla's probably shipping those batteries over to Germany, or they're storing them up so they can start that production. And so I think that's the priority right now. So if we do, I don't think we're going to see any serious amounts of the Semi till next year. We might see a couple trickle out here and there, but I think 2022, when Tesla wants to have somewhere around that year 100 gigawatt hours of battery production for the 4680 batteries, that's when I think we start seeing enough batteries produced to make the Tesla Semi, and that's when we really see that start shipping. Let's see here. Can you give a summary of the camera versus LiDAR discussion? Marco asked. Yeah, so basically the summary of this discussion of the camera vision versus LiDAR vision, what it really comes down to is a lot of people, they say, of course, LiDAR is necessary for a true safe system. And Tesla is saying, of course, that it's not. And before, Tesla was relying on both radar sensors, of course, some ultrasonic sensors for really close stuff, and then camera vision. But Elon Musk recently tweeted out that they're going with pure vision. They're not going to be using radar in the latest release, and that seems like version 9 of Tesla's full self-driving beta. So it's going to be vision alone. And what I was talking about in the recent video, and once again, you can watch the full video if you're interested, but what I was talking about is a lot of people say LiDAR is necessary. And some people that say LiDAR is necessary, they don't know what they're talking about, and they'll say, yeah, what about snow, fog, rain, whatever? But LiDAR doesn't work good in snow, fog, rain, etc., because it requires a laser to bounce off an object and bounce back. And if it's refracted with water, fog, light, bright light shining into the LiDAR sensor doesn't work. And I understand some of those same issues exist with camera vision, but LiDAR is not better in that sense. And then secondarily, they attack Tesla's vision system with cameras, saying that it can't create a 3D model and the 3D data points, and it's not very good at distance. But Tesla at Autonomy Day and through other reports is proving that with their camera vision system and their neural nets, they're able to actually predict distance and depth and create 3D models from video alone that rival that of LiDAR systems. And on top of that, as was mentioned also at Autonomy Day, of course, this is a couple of years ago, but this is not new news, but the camera gives you more data and can give you the same kind of data as LiDAR with the right neural net. So really the conversation is, we don't need LiDAR, I don't believe personally. And Elon Musk is so adamant about it, and he's right. We don't need LiDAR, we only need cameras. And with the right work put behind that, the right neural net system, and of course when Project Dojo comes out, that's going to help accelerate those plans. But I don't think that LiDAR is necessary. I believe camera vision and Tesla's way to go about it is right. If humans can drive without lasers and without radar, with just 2 eyes and a very slow moving gimbal, as Elon Musk has said, then I think cars can drive with cameras, especially 8 cameras surrounding the vehicle. So that's basically on the summary there, Marco, of that. Gary Russo, why do you think the FSD version 9 with FSD Beta request button will be pushed out to next month? Elon Musk said, I think that his tweet was good enough to make a good estimate of why. I think what it came down to is it wasn't, they needed to perfect it to the next level, version 9, before they expanded the user base substantially. Once that button comes out, I don't know if everyone who pushes the button is going to get full self-driving beta, or if it's just going to be a limited number of people that get that full self beta and it's like a request button. But to me, it seems like Elon Musk decided with the team that they weren't quite ready to completely expand it out to many more thousands of people, and they wanted to get to version 9 and really make those tweaks based on what he said in that tweet before they rolled it out. So version 9, because it's going to be the best version and the version that Elon Musk will be most confident with, it seems like. That's why they're waiting to roll it out then. Let's see here. Ronnie said, I heard that Tesla often near delivery times will offer an upgrade of your reservation and you could possibly receive faster. That does occasionally happen. Of course, we are getting at the end of a quarter. March represents in the end of the first quarter of 2021. And so it does happen occasionally where, let's say Tesla the last week has a vehicle in stock and it has a wheel upgrade that you didn't have on your order. And that does occasionally happen. Local Tesla center will reach out to you and say, you maybe have this particular, Tesla on order, a long range all-wheel drive Model Y, for instance, but you have the Aero wheels. Are you interested in getting one with, the Uber turbine wheels or something instead, and we won't charge you extra for it? That does happen occasionally. It has happened in the past. There's no guarantee, but that is, of course, something that can happen. Sometimes you get a paint color upgrade or something like that. But yeah, that can happen. Let's see here. Leonard 65. I hope my dual motor comes around right as the federal tax credit gets extended. Yeah, that was going to be so huge if the tax credit gets extended. Obviously, the current president of the United States, Biden, he's very pro EV, and so is a lot of people around him and the people he's putting in place. And, I do see the EV tax credit in the United States being expanded, and I should say extended, where Tesla will have that tax credit somewhere between 7,000 plus, it seems like. Again, maybe even something more generous, as has been reported. We do see that happening, and with that happening, Tesla already has huge demand, but I can't imagine it's going to go nuts if it gets expanded and, there's another 400,000 or so Tesla vehicles that can qualify for that rebate. Yeah, but that'd be amazing if that happens. SoCal Autofocus, do you think the headlights on the Cybertruck will need to change or are sufficient as in the concept vehicle? That has been a topic of discussion. I've seen some articles and people have pointed to there's no way that those lights would pass, the regulations of governments and stuff. it's really hard to tell. I haven't seen the Cybertruck in person, so it's hard for me to really make a good informed decision on that completely. Um, I think there could be an ever so slight tweak, but I think Elon Musk is going to do his best to keep the style like it was. So I think there's a possibility of a slight tweak of the design, but I don't think that you're going to see such a large tweak that it's going to bother you. Like it's going to be some huge headlight like you see on a normal vehicle. Like I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's still going to be, a smaller light. On a lot of new vehicles, you see a very skinny headlight that's still with the advanced LEDs and stuff, the pixel headlights, they're able to do a lot with that. So I don't think it'll change much. There could be a slight change, but I don't think it'll be a big change. And Elon Musk has said there's not any really big design changes for the Cybertruck. So I don't think it's going to be like drastic and you're going to go, man, I hate that. But I think there will be some very slight design tweaks there, including possibility of headlights. It says, let's see here. Won't radar remain for other than FSD, etc.? Example. Yeah, I guess, radar is going to remain there and it still probably could be useful in certain circumstances. But, I could see a future where it becomes something that's just there. It's maybe not even being used. And maybe at some point in the future, Tesla doesn't even manufacture vehicles with a radar. I don't think it's necessary for a lot of things. The ultrasonic sensors pull when you get really close environments for like parking and that kind of thing. You don't need a lot of radar for that. So I think it's just going to be something that is going to be on Tesla vehicles for a short period of time. At some point, it's going to be discontinued. I don't think radar will be used for anything sometime in the future. So personally, I think as long as this is going to roll out like Elon Musk thinks, I think the radar is going to not even be installed in future vehicles. So that's my opinion there. Like autopilot. Yeah, I think even then though, I think like adaptive cruise control. Yeah, you can use radar, but you can also use camera vision. So I think Tesla's going to move even for autopilot to camera vision, and adaptive cruise control. I think that's going to be camera vision. A lot of people have talked about phantom braking. Last time we did a stream, there was a talk about phantom braking. Some people, including Green the Only, which is the white hat hacker online that posts a lot of good Tesla stuff. He mentioned that a lot of times it's the radar going under power lines and things like that can cause some of that phantom braking. So by Tesla going away from the radar, that could maybe eliminate any of that phantom braking that still exists. So I think that could be one small reason why Tesla's moving away from the radar. So just that opinion there based on what I said. Does an upgrade for Tesla Model 3 2020 heat pump will be available one day from Tesla? So I assume, Felipe, that you're saying like something where you can retrofit. I doubt there'll be a retrofit for a heat pump, just because it seems like that's going to be quite a change to move from a capacitant heater to the heat pump system. So I would doubt that very greatly that there'll be some kind of retrofit thing from Tesla. Will somebody figure it out? Like Rich Rebuilds, will he figure out how to do it? Well, maybe. But I don't think it's just going to be an easy thing that a Tesla service center is going to do and that Tesla will offer. So my opinion is no, you won't be able to upgrade a Model 3 without a heat pump to one with a heat pump with something that the service center will do. I don't think that's the key. I don't think it's going to happen. Leslie Weir, do you think the $25,000 EV could come out next year as opposed to 2023? Yeah, I think it is possible, but I think once again, it all depends on batteries. Now, I do assume that Tesla is going to be using the iron phosphate batteries for this really inexpensive $25,000 car. I think that's the only way that it's going to work, the cheaper iron phosphate batteries, and those will most likely be manufactured by someone else because Tesla mentioned that they're going to focus on the high nickel batteries, so like the NCA, nickel, cobalt, aluminum, or eventually get rid of cobalt altogether. And so, I think depending on if they can get the battery supply for that, possibly, but I also see them focusing, let's say that the $25,000 car does come out in 2022. Let's just say that middle of 2022 it comes out. It's going to be focused on China for a while. That's going to be the focus. It's manufactured in China. and they're going to focus on China. Yes, I know there have been reports that Tesla is going to export that vehicle to other parts of the world, possibly including the United States. But I think since it's going to be locally produced in China, that you're going to see the most of those deliveries out first in China. So that's going to be a focus on China for a while, and then eventually I think it'll come out to markets like the US, Europe, etc. I could be wrong on that, but that's my opinion on that. I think we could also see that vehicle at some point being manufactured at some of the other facilities. Maybe even an even cheaper vehicle coming out of Tesla Gigafactory in India, for instance. So interesting question, and I appreciate you asking that. Let's see here. Leonard65, currently laser and LED matrix headlights aren't allowed in the United States, but Tesla is supposed to be working with regulators to change that. The mirrors are also something they will need to work on. Yeah, that's. I guess that's a good point. I appreciate you pointing that out about the headlights, the laser and LED metrics headlights not being available legal in the United States. Yeah, it seems like we're behind on that in the United States, and I think that will happen. I think those have been proven already by many companies that they're safer. They provide a lot better control for the driver and a better vision. So I think those will be approved shortly, as of course the side view cameras that replace the mirrors. We're starting to see that come into vehicles like the Ioniq 5, the Hyundai Ioniq 5. And of course in Europe, you see that already on vehicles driving on the road, but I think that's going to be approved by regulators shortly. So I think by the time the Cybertruck comes out, very possibly both of those things will be approved. And in that case, then the headlights wouldn't have to hardly change at all. So good thing to bring up. Julian, do you think the Plaid Plus delay is linked to the Semi being prioritized to get the 4680 batteries? I don't think that that delay has to do with for the Semi. I think what actually there were several things that I thought about. Initially, I knew when I streamed last the delay, I mentioned that I thought it was related to the 4680 batteries. I still believe that. But based on new news reports, I believe that they're prioritizing batteries for Model Y production at Gigafactory Berlin. And so I think that's what's happening with those batteries. I think the 4680 batteries are going to Gigafactory Berlin. They're stocking those up right now, possibly even Gigafactory in Texas, because obviously they may be able to set up a production line at Gigafactory Berlin, Germany, but they're not going to have batteries being produced immediately. And so as they're getting the batteries to be manufactured there locally at Gigafactory Berlin, I think they're going to have batteries, the 4680 batteries from the United States, shipped over. Obviously, it's more expensive. That's not the ideal situation in the long term, but I think that they decided to use those batteries for that instead of the Plaid Plus and delay that slightly because the Model Y is a more important vehicle for Tesla on the long term. Yes, the Plaid Plus is important, and that vehicle is going to provide a lot of good press for Tesla because it's an amazing vehicle, but I think it's not going to change things for that to be delayed. As far as the good for Tesla, it being delayed, for 6 months is not that big a deal, but delaying the Model Y production in Europe by 6 months and mass production is a big deal because Tesla really needs to get a locally produced Model Y hatchback type vehicle in Europe, locally produced, and that's going to make a big impact for Tesla. So I think that's where the batteries are going, not being prioritized for the Semi, but being prioritized for the Model Y with the new structural battery pack. That's what I think there. Wouldn't they still need radar to navigate through dense fog? That's a good question. And it seems like it would be helpful to navigate through dense fog. However, when I mentioned before, LiDAR doesn't work good in fog. It doesn't work good in rain, heavy rain, snow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The same is said about cameras. Now, there are some really advanced neural nets that can basically, even through dense fog, they can capture certain data and still figure out the world around them, even in dense fog. Similar to what a human does. I mean, when humans drive in dense fog, and they're able to figure out and see different shapes and figure out what that is. And so I think that Tesla's neural nets may get to such a point that they're able to, even in dense fog, to a certain level, obviously at a certain level, it's undrivable, but to a certain level, they'll be able to navigate through dense fog with a camera. And I think that's going to be possible. There is one company that I found that is figuring out some of the similar technology with LiDAR to be able to use all kinds of different optics and all kinds of different computer systems and neural nets behind that to kind of sort of see through fog and stuff with LiDAR as well. So it is possible. I think with both LiDAR and camera to see through fog and to figure some of that out. But I think that's still to be proven out completely. At the end of the day, and this is a point I made in that video that I did about LiDAR versus camera in Tesla's system, is, if the weather is so extremely bad that a human driver couldn't drive, well, then a car with camera shouldn't be driving either. So when it really comes down to it, if the weather is so extreme, the fog's so bad, the snow is coming down so hard, etc., if it's that bad, no one should be driving, including a self-driving car. And so that car would just pull off the side of the road, as same as a human would, until the weather gets better. So that's kind of that thing there. I'm going to take like one or two more questions. And then since we've gone 34 minutes, I want to go ahead and take one or two more questions, and then we'll log off here. So appreciate everyone that's put things up. Thank you, John, for doing a live event. Great interaction and insights. Thank you, SoCal Autofocus. I appreciate that. We'll make John Schaefer's question here the last one. If the Cybertruck comes with a structural battery and the battery life is about 12 years, how expensive would it be to replace with the depreciation on the truck? I'm sorry, will the depreciation on the truck make the truck worthless at that time? You say, let's say 12 years. If you're saying 12 years of life, if you're driving 50,000 miles a year, 600,000 miles, I think it's possible because of the long range of that we could see, a million-mile life with that with a potential new chemistry, with all that. And I think that, it's going to be more expensive, but I'm sure Tesla's going to figure out a way where they can unbolt the battery from the structure in such a way where they wouldn't have to replace the entire front and rear casting or whatever, but they'd actually probably going to somehow bolt into the structure. There's not going to be a structure in between the two pieces, but the structural battery pack is going to be bolted directly into the two structural pieces. So it's basically three main sections: a rear body casting, a front body casting, and in the middle the battery. So I think that battery will be maybe slightly more expensive than it would have been, but you have to figure too, by then battery costs are probably going to be half that. So while the cost might be more expensive than it would be just to replace a normal battery pack because it's a more structural battery pack, I think the cost will be down so low and the mass production will be so high that I don't think that you're going to see a depreciation because of that. And I think it's possible that the battery in a Tesla Cybertruck would last more than 12 years. I think you could last 20 years plus for most people. Obviously, some extreme cases where people drive a crazy amount, it could not last that long. But I think, with this new technology, the way it's going, I think it could potentially last, more than 600,000 miles with the Cybertruck and the new battery. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, Leonard65 mentions that it should expect at least 20 years of life probably for the Cybertruck. That's my feeling, like I mentioned. Probably closer to 20 years for the battery. And once again, in 20 years, think how cheap batteries will be. Very possible in 20 years, we're talking about batteries below $50. I mean, maybe, obviously in 5 or 6 years, I think we're at $50 a kilowatt per kilowatt hour at the cell level. I think maybe in 20 years, we're at like 10 or 15 or 25. I'm not sure. At some level, you're hitting the cost of raw materials. So it can only go so low at some point. But when the batteries are going to go lower, and so it's not going to be that expensive as you might think there. So very cool. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate you enjoying that answer there, and I appreciate everyone who came on the stream today. Once again, I appreciate everyone who subscribes to my channel. I appreciate everyone who comes on. Every time I close this video, I always want to make sure that I take a moment to thank the Patreon supporters. I have a Patreon community, and that in that community, every time I post a video, I put the slides up that I can share, and you can post those out with different graphs and charts, and you can share those out on social media. But also in this particular community, it's a community, if you're not familiar with Patreon, you can support my work with a monthly donation, either $4, $8, or $12 a month. And that actually goes towards me helping me buy equipment and put out new videos and do this as a full-time content producer. And so if you're interested in doing that, I have a link in the description. Once again, it's not required. I'm not, just saying, I'm not just doing this to ask for money, but just if you want to support my work, this is an option there. And I do want to thank every supporter right now that helps me with that, these performance supporters and the other supporters listed on the screen. So once again, thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate it. And I hope all of you have a great evening and a good rest of your week. Thank you so much.